Welcome back, diehards. Thank you, everybody. Welcome. This is Ties vs. Dies. In today's episode, we will be showing you a mandala and hourglass spine brought all together with trip style nubs. So it's an exciting episode. There's a lot to learn. You'll be able to implement them right away. First things first, we are going to be getting into the main part of our mandala centerpiece. And that centerpiece, of course, is going to be 3 inches off of the collar. So you start at that collar and then you drop 3 inches down, and that should be the end point of your mandala. So where you fold it, that's where it should end. So you're going to want to drop even lower, probably another 3 to 4 inches down to the center shirt with the 2 arm lines, the bottom of the arms. That's probably where you want to start your centerpiece. That's where I started it here, and that is going to give you that mandala being about 2 inches off of the collar. That way it looks more centered and it doesn't look too high up, but it's not too low either. So that's where you want to use that reference point for a rule of thumb, if you will. So we are also going to be utilizing our binder clips and our rubber bands for this project. We will be shooting that initial bind with our rubber bands, and you want to get that as tight as possible. You don't want to overly bind it, but you do want to get it nice and secure. That way you get a solid start and stop point for that mandala. That way, once we get into the later parts and the later techniques of this episode, you will be able to still get good dye saturation and get good color absorption for your tie-dye projects. And these tips and tricks are all universal, so they can be used throughout any tie-dye method or any tie-dye technique that you use. So keep that in mind. We actually went ahead and we folded this shirt into 3 equal parts. So you go ahead and mirror fold that shirt. After you've mirror folded it, you fold it into 3 triangle sections evenly spaced. That's how you get the finished result for this project. After you've gone ahead and folded it into those 3 equal parts, shoot 45-degree angles up the shirt until you get to the very end, and that will be 9 in total of those. You could add 1 or 2 or however many detail lines that you'd like, honestly, as long as you section off those 45-degree angles correctly, as you see me doing here with the washable marker. And you could also add as many or as little as you want to the very end of it, and that will give you just variations in the mandala. Alright, so we're going to jump into the hourglass spine variation right here. What we did with that second half of the shirt, after we've utilized that mirror fold, we're going to go ahead and fold that shirt in half twice, well, hamburger style, and then we're going to shoot a 45-degree angle from the center of the bottom up towards the collar, and that is going to give us this hourglass spine variation that we did here. And then of course you just go again with those 45-degree angles out through the end, and that will give you the pattern that we're looking for. And then again you could come back with those different detail lines to make it look sharp and to give it a lot of flair and a lot of flavor, because you could implement different color patterns in those different sections. We're going to get into these trip style nubs here, and with these you want to go ahead and just keep that shirt symmetrically bunched into different little nubs as you see me doing here, and then you just go ahead and you add some detail lines through those. You want them to be secure, but you don't want them to be overly tightened. And once we get into the heat setting of this project, it will allow for dye to get into those inner and deeper layers of those folds. And so keep that in mind. And what we're actually doing now is we're going back over the project with SINEW. That way we could just tie off those different main sections that we want to have a really strong bind for. So not the detail lines, but where we did the 45-degree angles, you want to go back over those with SINEW, because that will give you a really clear and a really sharp detail line and a really clear place where you can put different dye application, and that will give you different color patterns. I recommend hitting it with the SINEW. We went over it first with floss. We definitely like to use floss for our initial bind, and then we like to go back over with either rubber bands or with SINEW, as we've done in this episode here. Right now what we're doing, we're just going back over that with washable marker. That way you can have a clear visual of what I'm talking about here. And so all of these lines that we went over with that washable marker, those were all for we went back over them with SINEW rather. And so now we're getting into the dye application. and we are laying down some of that school bus yellow to get things started. We like to start with the lighter colors first, of course. That way, once you get into the darker colors, you will have a good starting point for those lighter colors. That way they still show through until the end of the project, because what we're actually doing is we're just going in layers here, and the layer is player, so keep that in mind, and that will allow you to get a really cool, really large range of color application into your tie-dye designs because of this layering process that you see me doing here. And this is baby pink, and we are just going back over, because just like the yellow, the baby pink is a color that will be overpowered and it won't be strong enough. If you try to put it down last, it may not shine through the rest of the colors, the darker dye application. So what we do here is we go with that baby pink first. That way we can see it at the end of the reveal, and that way those colors will still be showing and they will be glowing through, because remember, all these colors and dyes are transparent, so that means that you can stack them on top of each other and build new colors and build different hues and different tones and get a really cool contrast and a good range of depth for your color application, as long as you use this layering process that we are doing here. And so what that means is just continue to go over in a roundabout motion. That way you are letting it sink deeper and deeper, and as you start to work the dye, you'll notice it going deeper and deeper into the shirts and into the folds. And so that's what you're actually aiming for. You don't want to actually let them dry up all the way, but you do want them to be damp, and as you continue to add more and more layers on top, it pushes the lighter colors and those first applications deeper and deeper into the shirt. And then at the end, we'll actually go back with some hot water and soda ash mixture, and that will also help the dye to absorb deeper into those layers. And so keep that in mind. What we're going with here is a magenta, and this is to just kind of box in that baby pink color, because we really wanted it to be a good range of pink. That's what we were going for. It's going to actually be a range of pink and purple, and then we are going to use royal blue, aquamarine blue, and emerald green to set off those pinks. We're actually using petal pink, fuchsia pink, baby pink, magenta, and I believe rose red. So keep that in mind, and that is how you get a really good range of color for the different spectrums of color and for the color palettes that you choose to use. So if you choose to use it, remember, don't abuse it. No, I'm just playing. But keep that in mind, and that's how you get a really good range of color for these for the tie-dye process. And that's how we are doing that here. And so we actually did not get the last colors added down. What we actually did for the remainder of the body, we added, like I said, the emerald green, the royal blue, and the aquamarine blue. We heat set this shirt for 12 hours in a heating pad. So we double bagged it in 2 Ziploc bags, and then we heat set it for 12 hours in a heating pad. And so that's what it actually comes out looking like once you're done. And remember, you want to go ahead and add soda ash water to that project, and then whatever main color you want for the shirt on the body, you want to go ahead and just pretty much flood it. And so in the bag, you go ahead and you squirt, let's say, 4 ounces of whatever color you want to be your main color. So we wanted a lot of blue and purple here, so we added that to the bag and we let it heat set. While you're heat setting it for that long, it starts to pretty much cook the shirt, and it starts to absorb that dye into those deeper folds and deeper layers. That way you can get a really saturated and a really deep color application. And I think that, as you see here, the color stays very bold and it stays very bright when you use this method. I've done it for 2 hours, but the longer you can wait, the better typically. And so 10 hours is really the target point. You want to just set it and forget it, and that will allow you to have a really cool and really satisfying reveal once you do get into the tie-dye reveal of your shirt and get to see what your shirt looks like. And oftentimes when we try to rush this part of the process, that's where the most trouble will come. So I know it's hard. I know you've been working, possibly hours on this project, but don't get impatient in the setting it process. That's one of the most important steps. And so just like I said, set it and forget it, and that's how you're going to achieve a really bold and bright and beautiful tie-dye application. So yeah, look at those colors and notice how this is prior to rinsing it. We have not rinsed it yet, and those colors are going to stay very bold and stay very true due to the fact that we added that soda ash water, those extra dyes to saturate the shirt, and we heat set it for 12 hours. And so yes, keep that in mind, and notice these colors. Notice the yellows and notice the pinks, because that was the first color we laid down, and then we laid the rest of the colors on top. But take note on how those colors actually stayed visible, and how the layering of the rest of the colors affected those initial colors that we set down. Take note on that, because that's what this process has to offer. And so we're still just going through the motions here. This is probably a headache. I wanted to show this part in real time, and this is always just a headache, kind of getting into the reveal of your shirt. And what I actually used was a letter opener, because I feel like it works best. And see, notice those yellows and those pinks. Notice how they stayed very bright and bold, and that is because of that layering process that we did, and that's why they're still actually visible here towards the end. And notice how bright they stay when you use this heat setting and layering process. This is how I typically do it. I think that this is the best method that I've found. If you use a different method, drop it in the comments. We'll have a discussion about it. And so yes, notice how that finished result looks very bold and very bright. Notice how all those colors stayed true to the end. Notice how those purples and blues and pinks all stayed true to the end. And notice how they are very bold, and the whole color palette really comes out here. Go ahead and take a look at that spine. Check out how that finished up. Notice the patterns, and notice those trip style nubs. That's what's on those outer perimeters of that design. That's the trip style. That's what the trip style has to offer. That cool, smoky, random yet symmetrical finish that I very much am a proponent of. And this is that centerpiece. This is that mandala. So check it out. Notice how bright those colors are. Notice the trip style around that mandala, and notice that clear stopping and starting point for all of those different colors and that mandala itself. And the trip style, of course, it always looks player as far as I'm concerned. And so yes, well, this is going to get towards the end of the video here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us. Get out there and tie-dye the world, and we appreciate you very much. Diehards, thank you. And everyone, we will see you in the next one. So stay tie-dyeing. We love you. Tie-dye the world. All right, bye.